So I've had 5 clients executed, and the first was in 1997, and another one that was significant for me was, not that they're not all significant, but Ernest Basin was executed in 2002, in December 2002. And Ernest's case was life-transforming for me because I became so close to his family. And they're just really great, down-to-earth people. And so we went on this journey together, particularly in the last few months of his life, fighting for his life. And they traveled around the state, and we talked about his case and all the injustices in his case. And it was very powerful. So he was executed actually on the day we had a major ice storm in the Triangle, and most everything else was closed. But of course the prison had their own power system. So the execution went forward, and when he was killed, I was with his niece, who I became really close to and ended up adopting her as my little sis. We sat there, so I did not witness his execution, but I was with his family downstairs from where he was being killed. When I woke up the next morning, it was actually that morning because they do executions at 2 a.m. When I woke up that morning, I felt like I had to do something positive. After all that energy that was put into the campaign to help save his life, I wanted to do something positive with that energy. And so I called my pastor and told him I had this idea for starting a restorative justice project that would focus on death penalty cases, because death penalty cases cause trauma all the way around. There's trauma on the victim family member side as the case just goes on and on and on and reopens those wounds. And there's trauma on the inmate's family side. And of course there's great trauma to the inmate, and there's trauma to the professionals who work in the cases. So I wanted to do something that would talk about this trauma and that would help address the trauma. And my pastor was very supportive, and as a result, I talked to Ernest's family, and we created together the Capital Restorative Justice Project. And it's still going. It has a website, capitalrestorativejustice.org, and we are just a very small group. We have 2 staff people, 2 women who just do minimal amount of time, but they are there for the family members on both sides. And often there aren't 2 sides. Often in these cases, in fact, most of my clients who were executed, it was an intra-family killing. And so, for example, my last client that was executed, Steve McCone, who I'd represented for a very long time, 10 years, he killed his mother and stepfather. And he has 4 siblings. And of course, initially, they were just devastated, of course. I mean, it was just a horrible situation. And for years, you know, we didn't hear anything from them, of course. And we reached out to them once and got the sense that that was not what they wanted. But just a couple of months before his execution, we reached out again. And it was miraculous what we found, and that is 3 of the 4 had forgiven Steve. And none of them knew, because they hadn't even talked to each other about it. But they had forgiven him, and they decided to get involved. And so at the end, 3 of the 4 of his siblings went to the governor and said, "Do not kill my brother. Do not take another family member away from us. We forgive him." So sometimes there's not even 2 sides, but the devastation is there. So that's what the project is about, just being present and trying to address the harms and being a resource for people. So I had this life as a capital post-conviction defense attorney, and then I have this whole other life as a legal educator. Once I went over to Duke and started teaching, I began increasing my responsibilities, and also I applied for and got a position that was a grant position for 2 years in Washington, D.C., working for the Association of American Law Schools. During those 2 years, I visited 90 law schools, going around as the director of pro bono, encouraging law schools to start programs or to improve the programs they have that teach students the importance of doing pro bono as lawyers. So that was a great job. And after that, I went back to Duke, where I was for, I guess, a couple more years. And then I left Duke and went back to DC and worked for a nonprofit called Equal Justice Works. And there I was again working with law schools, even though I wasn't in a law school, but working with them to increase public interest in pro bono opportunities for students. And then in 2007, I had been following the story of a law school coming to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I kept my ears open, and a position became open once the school opened for a director of clinics. So I applied for that position and got it, but I changed the name to Director of Experiential Learning, focusing on the importance of law students getting hands-on opportunities while in law school to learn about the poor, to learn how they can help the poor, and work on issues of other disaffected groups. The school, I came to Charlotte School of Law largely because of its mission. Its mission is to provide a student-centered education to produce practice-ready lawyers and to serve the underserved, both in terms of the students we accept and the community we serve. So the mission just fit right, very much dovetailed with my interest and my commitment. It's been a very interesting year. I've been here now almost a year, and we just got our provisional accreditation, our first time out, which is a big accomplishment. We are entering our third year, which means that for the first time this year we'll have 3 full classes. And so we're very excited. We're moving into a new building, which we built. So it's great. When I came on board at Charlotte School of Law, they had already passed a mandatory pro bono requirement. So every student who comes here has to do 10 hours of pro bono service, that's law-related service to the poor, and they also have to do 10 hours of community service related to anything, habitat or cleaning streams, environmental stuff. So that shows the commitment of the law school, but it also shows the students come here and want to be doing this stuff. And so we've grown the pro bono program over a year. There's a woman here who is the pro bono coordinator, and already just after 1 year we have, I think, 80%, close to 90% of students who've completed a pro bono requirement. So I oversee the pro bono program, and then I also started an externship program where students get credit for working in public interest, government, and judicial placements during the school year and during the summer. So they do their placements, and I have a course component where we talk about issues around lawyering, alternative ways of thinking about lawyering, such as collaborative lawyering and therapeutic jurisprudence. And so it's a great opportunity to explore lawyering in different ways. And they also do journals, so that they are doing and they're reflecting on what they're doing and what they're learning, and then I'll respond to them, and so we keep the cycle of learning going.